Hello everybody, our guest today at Foundations TV is Akshat Shekhar, who is pretty well known in our community, but first time here at Foundations TV. Welcome to Foundations TV, Akshat.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely a pleasure. Akshat is a brilliant student and he is currently a sophomore in UPenn, Wharton School of Management, and he's pursuing the Bachelor's of Science in Economics with a concentration in Finance, right?
Right.
Okay, great. And he is also one unique student who achieved 2400 on SAT in his only attempt that he needed to take. Obviously, he had no reason to take another exam. And he was also one of the 3 students from Massachusetts to be named Presidential Scholars by United States Department of Education. And he was also one of the 12 students to be selected for the Students Leadership Exchange Program in China. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay, now that's a lot of achievements, but I'm sure I'm missing a lot. So would you like to talk about a few of your achievements?
Did a great job covering the academic side of things. I think that sums it up pretty well. To give viewers a better idea of what I do outside of the classroom, extracurriculars at Wharton, I'm involved on some different boards. I'm on the board of the Wharton Management Club. I write the corporate relations newsletter for the private equity and venture capital group. I help on the development team for the Wharton Investment and Trading Group. And one of the main things I do is as part of the Daily Pennsylvanian, which is the university's daily newspaper for students. I'm a member of the marketing team there, a member of the opinion board, and I occasionally function as a political blogger.
Oh, wow. Excellent. So even though you're pursuing a degree in finance, you are quite, kind of all-rounded. You're doing a lot of different things besides that as well. Is that right?
Right. I've never really been dead set on finance. It's really something I've picked up in the last year or two. I've always tried to keep the array of interests wide. So.
Wonderful, wonderful. Now that leads us to our next question about your work experience. I believe you do have a wide variety of work experience during your high school internships as well as your college years. So would you like to tell our audiences about it?
Sure. I mean, I've bounced from field to field. I've worked in really technical places. I used to work with robotic arms with a small business called Bear Technology. I also used to work in a medical lab, a Harvard Medical School affiliated lab as a senior in high school. But I've also worked in sort of more research-based places as well. This past summer, I had an economics research internship with focusing on monetary policy with a technical finance firm. I worked for an incubator / investment bank locally in Boston this past summer. And as well, I've worked at Boston City Hall working as a policy research intern.
Which one was your favorite out of all these?
I liked the economic research a lot.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to have a job along that line. So
yeah, I'm sure. So so many achievements, right? To hold on to, close to your heart. Which one do you think is your greatest one?
A biggest success. I think the things I do that have the most impact on a large audience are where I feel that I contributed the most, and therefore I think that's the greatest success. So I'd say the day-to-day work I do, for example, on the marketing team of the Daily Pennsylvanian, really would qualify. Because when I do something like benchmark our paper against other college papers, or I do a long-term research project on what exactly is our campus looking for from its newspaper, that's something that benefits not only myself and the paper, but really the entire University of Pennsylvania campus. So I think something that can reach out on a broad basis like that, those are the type of achievements I'm most proud of. Whether it's at the DP, at my experience in City Hall, anything that can impact the greatest amount of other people is the most important.
Sure. So do you have a personal measure of success that you keep for something like this? Like, I know you're talking of the breadth of coverage, right? So do you have any numbers or anything that you keep in your mind while you're
honestly, not really. Honestly, a lot of it is looking back. I think if you set out to be successful as your number one, it sort of can throw off the balance. I think your number one priority should be to do what you like first and then try to advance in what you like. I never really have gone into a venture, like I never really went to City Hall being, I'm going to make this successul. It was more, I like government, I like politics, and I want to take a role. Once you get a role in something that you like, is trying to expand it, try to be as effective as possible. There's definitely value to that, but I think success is really subjective, and it's hard to quantify whether you're doing it or how much you're doing it in the moment. It's good to have a couple of achievements that you look back on later and say, oh, I really did a good job at X, Y, or Z.
So it sounds like you kind of follow, you know, what you like to do, and you kind of go in for what you want to do, and then give it your best, and your best just becomes the best of everybody, right? Because you are the best. Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, I know we've talked a lot about successes and achievement and the happy times and things that you love to do and you're good at, but I actually want to ask you a question about the other side of life, which is failure. Have you experienced failure?
Definitely. I think a lot of times if you want a certain role or a certain position that you're not ready for, that you don't have the skills for, when you don't get it, it can initially seem like a setback. I played saxophone for a lot of years, I think, since middle school. And when it came time to, I was part of the jazz band in my school. When it came time to electing captains, although I was one of, I think, 3 or 4 senior saxophone players, I wasn't elected one of the captains for my high school. I didn't take that too hard personally, just because I knew, like, although I was good, I wasn't like, you know, a prodigy or like a virtuoso or anything like that. It was something I did for fun. But taking that in stride and saying, hey, this is one place where you're not in a leadership position that's named, but you can still contribute, you can still be a leader. You can still, you know, for example, to organize captains practices. The captains rely on people, on sort of unofficial heads of sections to make sure we're all on the same page. And learning how to contribute, even though nominally you quote unquote failed, which I don't think is a really productive way to looking at it, figuring out a way to contribute in any way that you can, is what it's all about. If you can still do what you like to do, even without the position or the role, I think that's really what you should aim for. That's
a great analysis. You know, looking back, I know what you're saying is so logical and it's so perfect. That's great. No, it is. It is. At your age, to be able to analyze that much and to be able to hold on to that learning for the rest of your life, it's really nice. But at that moment, was it hard for you to accept the so-called failure? At that moment?
I think most people actually, it wasn't my first moment. Like there have been plenty of things where like applications for things or different leadership positions that you miss out on. Okay. And I think at some point you have to be able to go through that enough that it's not a shock, that you don't take it as like it's very bad, I think, to go through and sort of be winning everything.
I'm sure.
It sort of isn't.
Sounds really good, but maybe
it's not the attitude you really want to have towards everything. The attitude shouldn't be about, you know, success first or like winning first or I'm the president of every club. The attitude should be, what do I like, and again, how do I maximize my role in what I like. So I think not getting something or getting something that's a little bit below what you ideally would have wanted is a good. You occasionally need that just to recalibrate and say, okay, that's fine. How do I still contribute? How do I still do what I like as effectively as I can?
Wonderful, wonderful. These are some great lessons to hold on to. So, you know, kind of switching the track completely towards more personal life and family, what is the role that your family plays, your parents and your siblings play in your life? What does it mean to you?
I think letting me be comfortable enough to take risks, allowing me to sort of pursue whatever I wanted to, was a big part of it. I mean, I always, if I had a success, I wouldn't hide it from my family or anything. I would always come back and say, hey, you know, for example, like one thing's going really well, another thing is you know, this the status of that. But it's not as if my parents said, okay, these are the 3 clubs you're going to join, or like you should always do these 4 extracurriculars. They were very open from the onset in terms of do what you want. If you advance in that, you know, we're going to be happy if you're happy. But just sort of being open to anything was really a key.
Great, great, great. So kind of wrapping up the interview now, but last couple of questions about advice to our audience who's listening to you today. Well, let's begin with parents. You know, do you have any do's and don'ts for parents? Like, don't do this to your child, or definitely do this to your child. You know, just.
I guess as a general philosophy, be willing to let your child explore what he or she likes, especially in high school, when you're not really going to have, or high school and college both, where you're not going to have that opportunity later in life to do whatever you want, to have sort of the funding, the resources, the community around you to explore whatever you want on a trial basis ever again in life. So I think that's a really critical moment for any child, and I think as a parent, letting them know that they're free to explore is very important.
Great, great. And now going on to kids really quick. What do you think about aspiring kids who aim high and who are looking to be successful in life? What's your inspirational message for them?
Again, be willing to branch out. There will always be 1 or 2 favorite things you will fall back on, but be willing to branch out into opportunities that aren't standard. I remember one of the things I really liked at the beginning of, and throughout high school and still do, was sports. But I always thought of that as separate from extracurriculars. I was able to fuse the two by joining a student broadcasting team, helping make a community of kids who like sports the same way I did. So I think that wasn't something I had in the plan. There wasn't really ever a plan, but I think everyone should be willing to make a community around themselves that like the same things they like, and then be willing to branch out in their activities following up on that.
Excellent, excellent. Now there's so many more questions I want to ask, but just in the interest of time, I'm going to have to end here. But I'm sure we will talk again.
Sure,
so
definitely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks.
It was very nice talking to you.
Thank you. You too.